Mike, Singles Day is a great reflection of the health of the Chinese economy, but how do you foresee the trade tensions with the U.S. as well as the slowing Chinese economy impacting sales this year?
Well, Selina, as you know, 11/11 is not an event that relies exclusively on any one market, the U.S. or any other market around the world. So we'll be working with over 200 countries and regions as part of this enormous event. And so we don't expect any one area to have a huge amount of influence other than China, of course. So we're not too concerned about trade tensions between the U.S. and China as it relates to this specific event. In terms of the China economy, there's certainly more concerns that are being expressed today and some uncertainty about what will happen going forward. Having said that, an economy that grows at 6.5% is still growing very well. We reported our earnings last week, and one of the things that we talked to people about was we see some softening in the big ticket items like consumer durables, washing machines and televisions and big ticket items, automobiles. But in other sectors of the economy, particularly in things like cosmetics and food and fashion and apparel, we still see very strong growth. So there will always be some cyclical impact that we'll have to deal with. The long-term secular trends are a big part of what we're focused on. More and more people coming into the middle class over the next 5 years, about another 300 million. More and more of our business incorporating both online and offline, so that's expanding the pie in which we're participating. So we feel pretty good, and our 53% revenue growth in the last quarter seems to confirm that things are holding up nicely.
Mike, that's true, but I want to zero in on American brands, which are hugely popular on the Alibaba platform and generate significant sales on Singles Day. I mean, do you expect sales from U.S. brands to be lower as a result of China retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, as well as a somewhat dampened consumer sentiment?
Actually, Selina, I'm not expecting those sales to be lower at all. There are about 10,000, actually a little bit more than that, American brands on our platform. We love them. More importantly, our consumers love American products and American brands. We are, for this event alone, we have 180,000 brands, Chinese and from around the world, who are going to participate. So, as I said before, any single market or brands within a single market, including the U.S., are not going to have a significant impact on the overall result. But we are very excited about the brands that are participating, whether it's Johnson & Johnson or Mondelez or any of the other U.S. brands that are going to be showing up this year, because their products in particular are in huge demand by Chinese consumers.
Now, Mike, we're just days after the midterm elections. It'd be great to get your thoughts on your interpretation of the results and how it may impact a potential trade deal when Xi and Trump meet at the G20.
You know, those election results just happened. I've been over here. They don't get as much play in the China market as they do in the U.S. market. Looked like both parties did pretty well, and I think it's far too early to tell how that might affect the G20 meetings and President Xi and President Trump meeting together in Buenos Aires. Far too early to tell.
The Chinese government, however, has been cracking down on the internet sector. We've seen tighter regulations impact Ant Financial and Tencent. What's the effect been on Alibaba, and how are you managing that relationship with the Chinese government?
You know, the relationship with the Chinese government, Alibaba, is very similar to the relationship that we have to have with governments all over the world. We have to listen carefully to their concerns, look at the focus on GDPR in Europe and in the US. Data is a big issue over here. Technology is a big issue in all countries around the world. I spend a lot of time with governments all over the world where we're building our business. I hear the same things from them, the same concerns and the same questions as we hear in China. So I don't think it's particularly special about what's happening in China, other than the fact that this is a very big market and the technology companies are very large. Same is true in the U.S.
Now, Mike, Alibaba has a clear commitment to expansion in Southeast Asia, but what are you focused on now in the U.S. now that Jack Ma has said the 1 million jobs plan is no longer a priority here, as well as the geopolitical tensions?
Well, first of all, it's not just our globalization plans are not just Southeast Asia. We have a very big business in Southeast Asia. We have embassies which are responsible for cultivating businesses in local markets all over the world. We have a business in South Asia. We have a business in India. We have a very large business in Russia. And we purchased a business in Turkey. So we have businesses all over the world. Our expansion business, our opportunities in the U.S. remain significant. But the biggest opportunity is still to import great American products for the Chinese consumer, both B2B and B2C. And I don't think it's not correct to say that Jack has given up on our initiative to create jobs in the U.S. for small businesses. Our small businesses activities in the U.S. have been extraordinary. Billions of dollars of products for thousands of small businesses we have sold to Chinese consumers in the first 9 months of this year, and we're very proud of that. It is a little bit more difficult if tensions between these two governments continue, because we don't want to get caught in the middle of the political discussions and geopolitical discussions, which are also important when we're trying to do corporate business. But we continue to work very hard with small businesses in the United States, and we're very proud of our results.
And speaking of U.S. companies, Alibaba has partnered with Starbucks for coffee delivery and boosting its digital brand presence in China. Do you have other partnerships like that in the work with big U.S. brands?
Well, as you know, we have thousands and thousands of U.S. brands on our platform. We look to think very carefully about what strategic opportunities would exist. Starbucks is something that we worked on for a long time. And I know Kevin is very pleased with the results, and you could see it reflected in his stock price last week when they announced their results. But that's just the beginning of the type of relationship that we want to have with brands who are thinking not just about what they can do in the China market, but in markets around the world. We also, as you saw recently, announced a terrific partnership with Richemont and NAP in the luxury sector. That affects not just Richemont and NAT, but all of the 950 brands that are in the NAP stable, many of which are luxury. And of course, those represent huge opportunities for consumers, but also for us to think about strategic partners with them in the future as well.
And Mike, just real quick, you were a partner at Goldman Sachs running Asia operations when the 1MDB scandals happened. In retrospect, what did Goldman miss? What could they have done to avoid this?
You know, I've been out of Goldman for more than 5 years now. I'm not involved with the investigation or anything that's happening to it. I think really probably best to speak to Goldman Sachs about that rather than me.